If you like strong coffee, you'll like it more under very bright illumination conditions. If you like weak coffee, not so bitter, not so strong, then dim light conditions are the best. Unpublished research from California Business School. And yet the neuroscience and psychology would say colour is such a key part of our experience of food and drink that if you take it away, if you dine in the dark, if you lose your colour vision, in fact the experience is lacking something important, and perhaps we should bring it back and think more carefully about it. Cocktails are things that we expect to be brightly coloured, like this one here, in colours that need not necessarily coordinate with the flavours underlying. This is lychee, but it's blue. That doesn't match, but I don't mind, it's a cocktail. So in certain areas of food and beverage, colour incongruence is kind of okay. We expect bright colours, different colours. Things like molecular gastronomy makes a big deal about things that look one way and taste a different way. So here we have some of the dishes from Heston Blumenthal's Fat Duck restaurant up in Bray, not so far away from here. We've got things that look beetroots, they're purple. We've got kind of the snail porridge, it's kind of green porridge, and snails don't go together. That's over there. All sorts of psychology and neuroscience going on in these dishes here that I can tell you a little bit about today. The beetroot and orange jelly. So you imagine that coming towards your table. There are two little jelly cubes, one purple, one orange and yellow. I know it says this is beetroot and orange jelly. We recommend you start with the beetroot. And where do you go? You go with your eyes, with colour, with vision. That's the beetroot. Beetroots are purple, aren't they? Oranges are orange, so that should be the thing over there on the left. And so you bite into this thing here, and then think about it. And maybe you notice nothing wrong, and then maybe you bite into the other part of the dish. And then maybe the waiter comes up to you and says, "Are you sure you've got the right thing? I told you beetroot and orange, but you started with this one, but in fact that's the orange, that's the blood orange. Purple by nature, and beetroots, when you cook them, they actually lose that purple colour and become orange in hue." So it's kind of a dish that's playing with colour and tricking people in a way that they don't necessarily immediately realise. Our brains work by, what do we see? What flavour should that colour be? And let's just run with it. So if you know you've been tricked, you know what you see is wrong, but will colour still change the experience? And the answer is yes, it does. Especially with colours like these. Colours of red fruits. It seems like our brains have learnt. They've been around for a while through evolution, and fruits kind of go from green and sour to red and sweet. Not all fruits, but many fruits. And hence, if I colour a drink like this, bright red, of a nice, natural kind of reddish ripe fruit, then I can make that drink 10, 11% sweeter than it would otherwise be. Without the calories, without anything else, just by psychology and neuroscience. By changing the colour, I can make that drink sweeter and healthier in a way. And this works if you've got two drinks side by side, one that's coloured red, one that's coloured blue, and actually has more sugar in it. I'll go with the red one, without the calories. So lots of food companies, the Unilevers, the Procter & Gambles, are very interested in this. So it provides a way of, they're being told by government and others to say, reduce the sugar, reduce the salt, reduce the fat, reduce the carbonic acid. And when they do that, the consumers complain. Read the Daily Mail, they complain every week. Well, what's happened to our HP sauce? What's happened to our baked beans? They don't taste the same. Why don't they taste the same? To reduce the salt, the sugar and the fat. And maybe psychology and neuroscience, maybe changing the colour, might be able to preserve the sweetness, but in fact the calories and the sugar have disappeared. And of course, blue's a funny one. It's not natural food colour, so you have to be careful. Maybe it works for a mouthwash. But there's this great study from 1973, Wheatley, kind of a marketeer who's kind of doing psychology, somewhere in between psychology and marketing, I don't know what, performance art you might call it. He brings people around to dinner, it's dark, a bit darker than it is tonight. You've got steak, chips and peas, it's 1973, this is kind of the meal of the day. It's very dark, you can't quite see what you're eating, but you know there's round things kind of sit on your fork, must be peas, and these are chips, and that's the steak. And then halfway through the meal, he illuminates the room, puts back the full lighting, rather than the grey, dark stuff you've seen before, and suddenly you realise that what you're eating is this. And suddenly, he doesn't have statistics, he doesn't have the other stuff, but many of his dinner guests are running off to the bathroom, about to be sick. That blue colour does not work in steak. It might work in a fruit drink, it might work in a mouthwash, but definitely not in a meat or a fish dish. That indicates takes off flavours, pinkish hues on your faces. It turns out those pinkish hues tell us lots of stuff about, are you happy to see me? Are you bored? Are you aggressive? Are you going to hit me? All comes from the colour of the blood distribution in my face. And then if I look in your brain, I can see that those pink hues are especially overrepresented in your head, in all of us. No matter which country you're born in, those pink flesh tones are very important to us, and our brain overrepresents them. And that might relate to the fact why, if I put you in a pink room with Baker Miller pink, this kind of bubblegum pink colour that's used in lots of prison cells, or slightly less appropriately in dressing rooms for foreign teams, that's meant to calm people down, calm aggressive people. It's the same sort of pink, skin tone pink. Why is it the special K lane is always dressed in red? Well, I get to be the marketeers intuiting that red does something special to us. And if you're a lady and you wear a red dress, men are more likely to pay for dinner for you.
I'm going to talk to you about colour forecasting and the process behind it. They know the design life cycle. They know the stories that they had to tell as designers to get products from a picture on the mood board right down there onto a shelf being merchandised. And the last few years at Milan Furniture Fair, we've seen much more brass and copper coming into fashion. So for ages, it's been very much about chrome and silver in sort of high-end environments. Now with the recession, finally starting to see some warmer colours being brought into environments. Restaurateurs are often seeing that if people are paying a lot of money, they want the interiors to be very opulent and give them bang for their buck, rather than being the stark minimalist ones that were very popular 5 to 10 years ago. Part of the reason that colour moves on is because the people thinking about what colours are going to be in designs are always looking at the latest scientific processes that impact on how colour is applied to metals and to fabrics. So then A.L. Giba is an Israeli artist. I don't know if you can see this picture here. He was working during his military service on incredible software, looking at visualising how a crash would actually impact on a vehicle. After a few years doing that, he decided to go into the art industry afterwards. And by using 3D printers, we'll have more on that later, he has a 3D printer now worth over, I think, about £250,000, which he's combining with sculpture and effects to create incredible moving sculptures, fixed sculptures. We find that Nikon's Small World is an absolute wealth of inspiration. Nikon have hosted this website where scientists can actually show how new technologies are allowing us to see the tiny grubs beneath our fingernails, in leaves, in algae, and see how they move. And many designers are finding it deeply inspirational to see things that were totally invisible before, available to see now with the level of microscopic technology that we have. Other technologies that boutique hotels are developing to increase our sleep by making sure that the light is adjusted as we go to sleep and we wake up. And on Scandinavia, the therapeutic home, where for years now they've been experimenting with lighting for the home that helps to combat seasonal affectiveness disorder. When you're in a basement restaurant or in a mall, the thing that upsets you is the fact that you have no natural light. So if you look closely at this picture, what they've actually done on the left is they have lights under the tables that mimic reflections from windows. If you can see it closer, you see that it actually looks like there's a window being reflected from the side. The idea being that you'd have trompe-l'oeil around the restaurant, mimicking scenes from outside in beautiful lights that combat seasonal affectiveness disorder. Very clever and very fun. If you look at some companies like Wedgwood, they're already experiencing with these 3D printers. We're taking bone china as their inspiration. They're creating a porous finish, similar to bone, to create these incredible tureens that they never could have done in a traditional ceramic process. Marcus Kaiser did an incredible project in the Sahara Desert, where he invented a 3D printer that used the sun to actually create items out of sand right there and then. So it's using the sun to turn the sand into molten glass. And by the end of this 7-minute film, and they've cut quite a lot of time out of it, he's actually created a bowl right there and then.
Well, we think color, or vibrancy as we like to call it, is at the very center of everything that we do. On a side note, I'm sure everyone here would agree that when you think of color or vibrancy, you think of very positive things. For example, as a Mexican brand, I think of my favorite Mexican, Salma Hayek. The first is how we use color or vibrancy to attract more guests. The second is how vibrancy took over the entire company. And the third is the result it's created.